ndinovhairirwa nekamwe katsotso zvako kundichisidzira inini.
Welcome to this edition of Free Talk, a program proudly brought to you in partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation and Heart and Soul TV and Radio. And I'm your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. And this week we are having an amazing discussion, a topical issue that we need to take cognizance of. That as Zimbabweans we have to come together. Our constitution envisages a situation where there's 50-50 gender parity in terms of political power and any other offices of influence. Gender equality has become the norm and issue that world over it is being discussed. We want to discuss the political aspect this evening. What can be done? What should be done to ensure that women are empowered to take spaces in the political sphere? Why are women not taking those spaces? And what role can the media take to ensure that women participate? Now, I am joined in the studio with a cast of top politicians, and we're going to be having a discussion to find out why women are shunning politics and what could be done to ensure that they take up office. Now I'm going to start with Honorable MP Memory Mbondia to just introduce herself and cut to the chase. Can we achieve gender parity in this political environment in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much. My name is Memory Mbondia, and I'm an MP from the Midlands Province, resident in Kwekwe. And I'm glad that you've brought up this topic so that when we get to 2023, we might possibly see a change in terms of women participating. But I would say there are three things that have hindered most women from participating. The first thing is their personal confidence. A lot of women, they lack that confidence themselves to actually come up and say, I want to take up this position. The second issue is the family. We are mothers, we are sisters, we are role models in our families. We have to take care of the children, take care of the husband. There is that stigma within the family set up. Your in-laws, they play a serious role when you try to get into politics as well, for those that are married. Then comes society. Politics has this connotation that it's for loose women or it's for prostitutes. So all these things, when put together, then one tends to shy away from participating. They would want to participate where they are a group and say their minds where they are a group, but when it comes to actual candidature, they shy away.
I'll come to you, Linda, maybe if you introduce yourself, so that I would not be unfair in introduction, and also just interface with our discussion today. In your view, is the ground pregnant enough to allow women participation in politics?
Thank you very much, Dara. My name is Linda Tungerai Masarira, the founding president of Labour Economists and African Democrats. You pose a very interesting question, which I've always answered fairly, though a lot of women don't want us to speak of these pertinent and critical issues. Our system systematically marginalizes women from powerful positions in political parties, especially in the traditional political parties that we have in Zimbabwe, that is mainly ZANU-PF and both formations or factions of the MDC. You'll find that since formation of these parties, most women in the Politburo or the standing committee in the MDC setup hold the vice or deputy positions. It has been very rare for a woman to occupy the substantive position because women have always had the deputy seat reserved for them. And every time they want to raise their head, that they want to occupy a certain space, the men start the patriarchal gatekeeping, use some other women in the women's wing or the women's league, and those women start fighting against the woman who wants to get a substantive position. In short, women are their own enemies in political party setups. That is why in the party that I lead, we totally abolished the women's wing. We don't have a women's wing. We are running on 50-50. All positions should be female, male, female, male, female, male, and that's it. And anyone who's not comfortable with that will find another party where they can go and do their patriarchal dominance. Why did we decide to do this? We realized that most men in our political economy in Zimbabwe do not want women anywhere near power. Women have just been viewed as second-class citizens in politics. I'll take you to a WhatsApp group that I was in when I was speaking about the abolishment of the Women's Council just yesterday. Someone said, that is the perspective that men have in politics. That women are supposed to be there to gyrate and sing for them, to clap hands and mobilize, and to do toro when they are going for congresses. But it's time that women step up. We've got Section 17 of the Constitution right on our side. It's speaking to gender equality. All organs of the state should comply. And if it is a constitutional provision, that is the supreme law of this land, every political party should comply. But the problem goes back to some women who want freebies, who are not confident enough, who want backing of a man that they think is powerful in a political party. That has been the tragedy of women in politics in Zimbabwe.
We'll come back to this issue of freebies because it continues to come up every time we have discussions around these issues. But Councillor, I want you to introduce yourself and also just interface with this. Do you think that there are issues that stand in the way of women in getting into politics, and what are these?
Thank you very much, Blessed. My name is recalled Councillor Kudzaika Dzombe. I think that is my official position. Yes, but I just, before I come to your question, I just want to buttress what Linda has just said with the factual example of the city of Harare. The city of Harare has 46 councillors and there are 8 committees that run the council. And out of those 8 committees, I was the only female chairperson, for those committees. So there were 7 male chairperson counterparts plus 8 more deputy male chairpersons. And then we had a male mayor, we had a male deputy mayor, we had a male town clerk, we had a male 4 directors of the city council, and we only had 2 female ladies who were in management. So you can already see the setup that I would have to walk in every day as I was executing my duties, that I'll be the only woman in a room full of 30 plus men. So already that shows you that the playing field is not level. But I'm glad that we're talking about this very pertinent discussion, and I hope it then materializes to more than just a discussion. We've been talking about 50-50 for a very long time, and it was a song that was even sung by one South African musician, we want 50-50, but it is not being taken seriously, and it is a constitutional right, and this is where it's supposed to start. We have to then try and stop any constitutional amendments to give us those freebies, as Linda was saying. We don't need freebies. We are not a weaker being. We deserve, to go head to head with men. And when you see the politics of just not even the political side, even the corporate side, you see that there's always a gentleman's table. And you actually have to be invited to that setting for you to excel in anything. So if we actually create our own platform as women, where we then mentor young women and bring them on board, you'd see then that the playing field will then level to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing the devil's advocate in this interview because I find that this interview is heavily gender unbalanced. But I want to come in and test some of those issues that you raise. Honorable Mbondia, you say that there's an aspect that politics, women who get into politics are of loose morals and issues like that. But is it not factual that those who have gone into politics, the women who have gone into politics, maybe before you, or who are still in politics now, are of loose morals, and therefore people deduce what is happening?
I'll be very blunt. It is not a fact. But the fact of the matter is that there are women who are not married. Those women who are not married have been seen to be taking the forefront in politics because they have lots of time on their hands. They have no one to judge them. They have no husbands to go back home to. You understand? So they have that time. So you'd find out that the majority of women who have become top political leaders, most of them are not married. So that is where this perception comes from. But also, I would like to add that within our political parties, there is this, from the older women who have been there before us, they have this feeling of entitlement. Mm-hmm. They have this enclosed pocket of themselves that does not allow other women to come on board, younger women to come on board. I'll take, for instance, when we went to the previous 2018 elections, the PR system was only for women of seniority. So it was gauged according to how senior you are in the party. Have you had 5 years within the party? But there are young women who have joined politics 2-3 years back who are vibrant, good ideas, brilliant young girls, but they cannot come and put in their ticket to come on to be candidates because there is this feeling of entitlement from the older women. So my thinking was, we don't have to shun our 60 seats. Nokuti aunga manire kubata kurasa chiri maoko nekuda kuombera. That was my thinking, because those 60 seats are what you have, but you want to grab something that you don't even have. For crying out loud, even America does not have 50-50. We are still a long way. Which is the society, is it ready to give us that? Are we even ready ourselves to take up that? When we ourselves as women are closing spaces for others to come on board.
There is an important point there which we're going to look at, but we will still come back to it and say, how are other women playing the bigger role in making sure that women don't rise, and what we can do about that. But Linda, you're the majority. Women are the majority.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you go to any political rally, there are more women than men.
Yeah.
So, what is your problem? I mean, okay. Why do you always want to cry foul every time when all positions are up for election? Why can't you just elect each other?
I'll be very brutal with facts in response. Number one, there isn't sufficient political education. Women don't know the power that they possess. Secondly, charity begins at home. How do women view leadership? How does a girl child view leadership? The leadership they know is the father, is the head of the house, is the grandfather, is a headmaster, until recently when women started becoming headmistresses. When they go to tertiary institutions, for a very long time, the lecturers have been the men in courts. So how has been the girl child socialized? They've been socialized to think that men are leaders. And we are trying to change that narrative. I've never cried foul about having space closed. I've had space closed for me since time immemorial, but I've always created my own space. Because power is never given on a silver platter. And I'm clear about that. I'm not a bootlicker, and I won't clap hands for anyone, but when you think that you're closing me out, I'll look for the alternative. That is why I decided to form a party that will incorporate women, give women fair opportunities, take leadership from the grassroots, give them sufficient political education, because that is what we need. Unfortunately, I beg to differ with my sister Memo's point of view that we have to wait for the society to be ripe. No. We need to water the society to be ripe. They have to listen to us. We are the leaders. We know what we want. We have to go down there and ensure that all women know the importance of taking up governance positions. I've always raised this issue.
Linda, as you explained, we've always known that women are powerful in society. You know, give you an example. The most powerful men who we have known in Zimbabwe, Robert Gabriel, was eating out of a woman's hand, and she was running the whole thing. When I make a decision, I have to think about what will my wife say. Why don't you take that power, convert it into political power, and occupy those spaces?
That is exactly what I, in quotes, am doing. That is why I decided to divorce myself from the MDC, because I realized that women still don't have power in the MDC. They are given an illusion.
But your president was a woman.
I am telling you the realities. Even if a president becomes a woman, there's always the power surrounding the woman. The ones who advise them. The one who tell them, Linda Asunga Zambia Mudzinge, because Ari Deputy wants to take my position. That is exactly what happened in the MDCT case. But basically, when I speak about this, let's interrogate Maim Juru's poor performance. It is the men that surrounded her that made sure that she does not give enough attention to the women in the party until the women started slackening. Those are the realities. As women, we have to learn to empower ourselves. I will tell you, I'm the president of LEAD. My vice president is a woman. The national chairperson is a woman, and I'm clear about that. People have cried foul and said, why is the vice president not a man? And I said, you can go to the parties where they've got 4 or 5 male vice presidents, and you can go and join them. Here, we are leading, and women are on the lead. And we have to start appreciating that women can lead. But if you've got a problem with women leadership, that's the beauty of politics and democracy. You're free to go and join the party that you want. The problem that we have had is we do not support each other as women. Years back in 2016, my sister Memo is here. We formed an organization called Zimbabwe Women in Politics Alliance. We had women from different political parties. But from their party, they were told, leave that organization. Am I lying them? They listen to what they are told at their own political parties. But with a platform to converge as women from different political parties, fight these issues that we're talking about, patriarchal dominance, gender inequalities, etc., etc. But because of the politics of patronage and personalities, the men where they're coming from will tell them that we will not tolerate you doing this in this party. I faced the same hardships when I was still in the PDP led by Tendai meeting. He would say, why are you talking to the media? But I was talking to the media on behalf of Zimbabwe Women in Politics Alliance, not on behalf of the PDP. The men who are running the show in politics in Zimbabwe are misogynistic. They don't want women to brand themselves. They don't want you to go and talk to the media because they are afraid that your talent will be seen. And when you start rising politically, they are the very same people who pay the youths in their parties to troll you, to body shame you, and to create all sorts of propaganda. That is the biggest challenge that women in politics are facing. But that will not deter us, and that will not stop us. We are going to fight this until women are in charge.
So gladly, from here in Hostels, Soul TV and Radio on Free Talk, and with our partners, Frederick Newman Foundation, we allow women to speak to there seems to be people cringe in giving women positions of leadership because there are some that have come before you who have been viewed as selling out. You look at from the MDC Alliance where you come from, there was Sekesai Makwalala, who when she became the mayor of Harare, she began to do, and sold out according to you. And as to your party.
Yes.
And when you had your vice president, Thokozani Kupe, she was also accused of selling out and all those things. Do you think that these things are the things that make people cringe in allowing women to hold power?
Okay, I'll answer your question just like I did before. I'll take up the question that you asked our Honorable Memo. And I don't see the reason why one's extracurricular activities should be a question that then makes you not be confident of their capacity to hold a certain position. One's marital status, one's gender preference, should never be one for debate when we're talking about issues of leadership. So that's already where you already see that there's already a judgmental aspect that you yourself, Blessed, has actually been done in this meeting, as a question that why are women being perceived as loose? And now you said the issue of women selling out. But then when you look at the percentage vis-a-vis the men who have sold out, you see that the men have a higher percentage. And surely it is an individual decision, not a gender issue. So if we start off with separating issues, and know that if we're talking about issues to do with leadership, we're talking about your capacity to be a leader. Nothing to do with your marital status. Nothing to do whether you're a lesbian or you're gay. Nothing to do if your social or financial status is of a higher level or lower level. Whether you've sold out, that is another debate that should be separated from the capacity to be a leader. And people then cringe because when they're having these discussions, they are not being truthful to themselves. They're already giving us extra baggage in us wanting to accept these leadership positions. I, as myself, should just be able to want to take up a position, go for it without any extra connotations or any extra judgmental, assertions. So that is one thing that I also just would want people just to be able to see a leader as a leader. Linda has done her part. See her as Linda, as a presidential candidate, as a leader of a party, and what she sees as a vision, and not then focus on the minors. Because when you focus on the minors, we lose the whole point. You then have youths who are unemployed, who are now, spending 90% of the time on social media trolling. A woman who has taken a step forward, to better the lives of women in Zimbabwe. So we need to learn to separate issues when you're going forward.
Why is it that when you look at those who troll, most of those in the forefront is a woman trolling other women?
And I think that the thing about that is when we're growing up, but we need to change that narrative. I shouldn't feel threatened by a fellow sister coming through to question me or maybe to challenge me for a certain position. I should be able individually also to even mentor young women. The moment we stop seeing other sisters as threats, we'll achieve what we want to achieve. And then men use this opportunity to then cause rifts amongst us. Because if one has a senior position, all he just needs to do is just have 5 relationships with 5 women of different levels, and then just let them fight it out. And no woman will even take one position going forward.
Wow, that's a tactic.
Yeah, it is.
But I want to come back to you, Honorable Mbare. When you say, let us look at you said take the 60 seats that are there. From me being a journalist and talking to some of those people in politics, is that it was an attempt by men to ensure that they continue to keep their constituency seats, that entitlement. So they immediately agreed to say, let us extend this, because now when you want to contest in a constituency, they'll say, no, you've got your 60 seats. So is this not biting yourself by trying to continue holding on to the 60?
No, I wouldn't say it is biting ourselves. You also need to look at the things that make you a member of parliament at the end of the day. What is in there? What do you have to put in at an individual level? I would say if political parties or even the government, from that political fund that comes through to political parties, if there is a fund specifically from that budget which goes to the women's wings to support the women's campaigns, it would assist them. Because now if you say we are going 50-50, we are talking of the rich women. You don't talk 50-50 in Gokwe Chirea, where those women, she cannot even afford a bicycle. She has 18 wards. A single ward in a rural constituency is huge, like one constituency in Harare. And you have 18 constituencies. You have 18 wards. You have 13 wards. How do you campaign in that terrain with no funds, with no vehicles? Because all that comes into the campaign. Or you just want your name on the ballot paper to just say we had 50 women on the ballot paper. What have political parties done, even though men are supporting us, but what have they done to ensure that women that are going to take those 50 seats are well equipped to campaign? Number two, we need a statutory instrument that is put together to ensure that when political parties bring in their candidates to ZEC, they have 50-50 there. If that statutory instrument is not there for starters, you cannot run and say we want 50-50. Pasati palanem temo to back that.
But how do you do that in a democracy? Because I'm trying to understand. The Constitution says that for one to hold office, a political, you must be a registered voter. You must be Zimbabwean, and you must stay in that particular ward or constituency. So for instance, how do you then stop me from contesting in a particular constituency and say this is a woman's constituency?
You are not stopped as per se, but the situation when you get to the ground is different from something that is written in the Constitution. Zvakatosiyana kana waenda kuground. Unokampena nei? The men will be rushing vaine mari dzavo. What do you have?
Where's your money?
Where is our money? Women have no money. Women have no capacity. That's why I said when you're talking of 50-50, you're talking of the rich women in urban areas. Go to rural areas there. How is that woman capacitated to campaign? And by who? That is our starting point. Let's capacitate our women first in our rural areas and make sure they are well resourced to campaign. Then we can start talking. Apart from that, it's just rubber stamping things, and when you get to the actual election, you find that
because the burden of the budget is too.
Yes.
Linda, we talk about this men and women thing, you know, as if we are not friends, you know. We get married to each other. I've got a sister, I've got a daughter, and what do you think is the reason for fighting for this gender wars and tussle for power?
The first reason is misogyny and the structural imbalances that have been there since time immemorial, mainly caused by the adopted religion, Christianity, that we adopted as a country. When we look back at our history, our own cultural values, women were very respected people in society. That is why historically, we had Queen Pharaohs in Egypt. We had the Queen Zingas, the Queen Shebas, the Queen Lozekais, powerful women. We had Mbare. But centuries later, you hear men say, we are not ready for a woman president. We can't be led by women. Are women children of a lesser God? Are we different? We were all born the same, conceived the same way, suckled our mother's breasts the same way, we went to the same schools, we even excelled. But when it comes to leadership, you hear men say, we are not ready for a woman. but you're being taken care of by a woman. The woman is running their house, taking care of children, going to work, everything else. But when it comes to governance issues, you are saying we don't want women. But there's a disconnect. No, I want to take this somewhere because it's you men and your brothers and your sekurus and your papas who are saying these things.
But the disconnect for me becomes very difficult to understand, because if women just decided that they're all going to vote for Thokozani Kube, for instance, in the past election, she would have been president.
That is why I raised the issue of politics of personalities and zero political education. I will tell you the truth, most people in Zimbabwe don't know why they vote. After 2018 elections, I would ask a person, who did you vote for? They didn't even know the name of the MP they voted for. They didn't know the name of the councillor, but they knew the political party that they voted for. In another central where I participated, everyone knew that they didn't vote for me, but they didn't know Maurice's was why they voted for. They didn't even know his name. So going there, that is where we have to take notes as women. Zimbabweans vote for political parties. We want 50-50 gender representation. Let's adopt the PR system that we use in the Senate, that is used in South Africa, where every political party sends a zebra list of 210. After elections, the percentage that you get as a political party, they count if it's in number 1 up to 100, your 100 people will go there, you have 50 women and 50 men. If you've got 10% and 10% of 210 is 21, they'll count your 21 MPs and then they go to parliament, they are gender balanced. The advantages of the PR system that is used in South Africa, it will help us achieve gender balance, it will help us achieve diversity in parliament, because every political party that participates in the election will definitely get a percentage that will go into parliament, whether it's 2 people or 3 people. And then we will have this vote rigging, because even as a president, if you do not win the elections, because you are number 1 on your party list, you will also go to parliament. I think this is where we are supposed to be drifting towards. We made this resolution at the 2019 Gender Indaba at Golden Peacock Hotel, which was hosted by the Gender Commission. But for some reason, our parliament decided to defy the decision that was made by Labour Economists and African Democrats, Movement for Democratic Change, T, Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, and ZANU-PF. Now, this is an area where all women in politics in Zimbabwe should converge. Take off our political jackets and say we need an electoral reform and amendment to ensure that we attain 50-50 gender representation. The issue that Memo was raising of women not having funds will naturally be dealt with. You don't have to go and look for personal funds to campaign in a constituency. Now the whole party is going to campaign for the whole party, and the number of votes that are gotten will determine the number of MPs that we're going to have. And I think the similar system should also be used in councils, because we have got so little councillors in Zimbabwe. I think less than 30% are women. Out of the 1,958 wards that we have in Zimbabwe, we've got less than 350 councillors. So this is something that we have to seriously interrogate as women if we are sincere about attaining 50-50 gender representation.
Linda raises this proportional representation, and I want to hear from you. Doesn't this proportional representation bring about the issue of bootlicking and patronage? Because for you to get onto that list now, you've got to love someone or to do the bidding of someone so that you get. Honorable Mbondia said at some point when she was speaking that that you have a corner people seniority that was coming in. Won't that affect you as well at the end of the day?
It will. It will cause a lot of bootlicking. It will cause a lot of sidelining. And I personally am not for proportional representation. I believe that the 50-50 is the best way to go. Because the reason why I say this is as a party, we actually even sat down and we actually then brought in a resolution and a task force called the Smart Gender Drive. So we have seen going towards 2023 that we have actually adopted as 50-50 representation in all aspects of leadership in our party, which is the MDC Alliance led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. We have also then done 50-50 in all other positions that are not parliament or council seats. The 50-50 gender representation should be there. Because the reason why I'm saying that it will cause a lot of bootlicking, we are not weaker beings. We don't need freebies, we don't need handouts. I should be able
Did you
to
understand
control.
the PR that I was speaking about?
Yes, I did.
List where we have a list of a woman, man, woman, man, woman, man.
I did,
Oh.
but I know that the pair you're speaking about and the one that we already have in Zimbabwe are totally different.
Oh, okay.
So I was going to address the one that we currently have, which is one that I'm against. And the reason why I'm saying this, I as Kudzai should feel free to want to contest for any position. And the reason why you see that they want to extend the PR is because they know that if they give us freebies, we'll just be grateful and say Maitabasa and then to Tambira. But then at the end of the day, who are these proportional representative positions accountable to? Are they accountable to a what? Are they accountable to a constituency? Are they even given, let's say in parliament, are they even given the CDF funding, to actually go and make a financial input in the constituencies that they're in? They are not. So basically you're coming to council and you're coming to parliament to just add numbers, look nice, get a stand, get a car, that we won't be going anywhere. But then the PR system that Linda is speaking about, that I can go for. Because then you see, instead of a woman struggling to campaign, you see the whole party taking ownership, of all those positions at what level. No one needs to struggle. At parliament, no one needs to struggle anymore because it's now being taken holistically. And the ownership is there. So I really am against the bootlicking, and we've seen it. We are all seasoned politicians. We've seen the bootlicking. And if we go forward like that, even at our own party, I know I'll be receiving calls as a provincial member in Harare province, Councillor Kumba, people will start giving me freebies so that I can consider them to be on that list, So this is something that we need to then get rid of completely.
But with Section 129K, it allows a political party to recall. If we go to that aspect of proportional representation the way it is in South Africa, does that give you security in parliament? Because you can just be recalled and you've got no recourse because there's not going to be a by-election.
Well, recalls always happen.
True.
And by-election is really not what we are focusing on. I was recalled, whether there's a by-election or there's no by-election, it doesn't change because I'm a people's leader, I'm a people's councillor. Linda stays in my ward and she knows I am still on the ground whether I'm in council or not in council. What we should be focusing is the presidential elections, not the ward or the constituency elections. So that power of not having by-elections should not be something that scares us from such a beautiful PR system. The zebra system, it shouldn't scare us at all.
Honorable Mundi, I saw at one point you went blow to blow with Tembo Would you want to talk to us about it?
No, I wouldn't want to talk about that.
But I want to come to the issue of violence in politics. How much of a factor or of an effect is that in terms of women participating in politics?
It is very, very serious. There is a lot of violence that happens. There is a lot of gender-based violence that happens. And after that, there is a lot of labeling, name-calling, body shaming that happens. And the media also, they water that flower bed. They water it to bloom, to blossom. You understand? So we still have a long way to go. We still have a long way to go. When other women see what happens to women who are politicians, women who are in parliament being abused, they want to stay away from that. It scares them because the environment is not conducive and gender-based violence is not being addressed in a proper way. There has been gender-based violence happening ever since in political parties, in parliament, but it is never dealt with right to the core to ensure that it does not happen again.
I want us to, you know, to look at the issues that you raised, you know. I mean, very, very poignant and powerful. But what can we do to make sure that this ends? And I also want you to touch on the aspect of the media. Please grill us. What should we do to make this better for?
I think there needs to be a criminalization of any form of gender-based violence. In political parties, during primary elections, women are beaten. When we go to the actual election, you have seen it. Women are being beaten, and they know the perpetrators. But nothing happens. They have to be criminalized. Those perpetrators are meant to be arrested so that that woman can garner that confidence to go in again and continue participating fully. It's only us, the strong-hearted women, who can actually, you know, go on and on and on. But other women, they just say, no, this is not for me, and they go home.
And I think you need to give others lessons. But Linda, let us talk about the media. Honorable Mbare speaks about the media. What has been your experience with the media, and what do you think should be done to make it more palatable?
I've said this before, I'll say it again. The media loves the dirty stories about women in politics.
Not everyone?
If most of the media.
I mean, you said about
yes.
women, not the
Yeah,
men.
I'm talking about most of the media that we have in Zimbabwe. I'll give you just a practical example. During the 2018 elections, there was a lot that the MDC team was doing, a lot that Maimwi Juru's party was doing, but the front pages were always about ZANU PF, Mnangagwa and Chamisa. The women presidential candidates, their stories were always on page 8, page 6, somewhere hidden in a little corner. Our media is not gender sensitive. That is why I've taken a task to go and look at the gender policies of almost all the popular media houses in Zimbabwe. Because I feel that there's a systematic attack on women leadership in this country, not only in politics, even in business, in corporate companies. Look at what happens when people want to make an example, maybe of nepotism. It was that doctor, a woman. Is she the only person in government who has recruited her family for work? But they wanted to give an example. They use a woman so that all of you will point and say, Makadzaraite. Is Henrietta Rushwaya the only person who smuggles out gold? We've got plenty of men doing it. Why are they not being put on the spotlight? They're trying to protect something. No, I'm trying to give you an example of how the women's bad news would take limelight. That Dr. Managazira, I'm sure there's plenty of good things that she did, but they never made it to the first page. There is a systematic attack on women leadership, and that has to stop. This is advocacy work that I told myself I'm going to do right now.
But Linda, I have read front page news for most newspapers, and there is hardly a front page story that speaks good about anyone. Mugen Shangani made front page news. He was described as open zip, shut mind, Chematama, Nelson Chamisa's MDC when 2 million allegedly disappeared, they were stealing, Douglas Mwonzora.
Let's put these things into a ratio, blessed. So, when it comes to women, you only give them the limelight when they're in the negative. Yeah. Let's be realistic about this. When they're in the positive and they do the right things, you hardly give women the limelight. That is the reality of our media in Zimbabwe. And we cannot debate about this and say, but we are talking about writing the good, positive stories about women in Zimbabwe. How will the women know that women can lead when all the stories that you take, sometimes without even verification, you don't even bother to take the other side of the story. Yeah. You just run with it because you picked it up on Facebook and say it is a reality. You also forget that there is that social media trail that will never be deleted. And those things will be used against us when we want to campaign, most of which those things will be false. Those are substantiated things. but you will run with them because maybe Linda does not like the politician that we are fronting or that we think should be the one that is being given attention. That is the tragedy in Zimbabwe. The brown envelopes, and you know it's a reality. Journalists are given brown envelopes. I know all these things. I will not involve myself in corruption and unethical standards.
But
I don't want, and I will never. I've actually, if you've noticed, I now have my own channel, Lit TV. I now have my own media house online, because if you're not going to write about me, I'll write myself.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing. So,
I'm a clear comment. I have my own social media online platforms, and I'll do my own media campaign. Because we will surprise you. Watch us.
why is it that women at times, because the media, like you said also, Linda, are going to, that power is not given on a silver platter if you want to go and grab it. But also publicity is not given on a silver platter. Why don't you go and grab it? What stops you from occupying the media spaces? Why are you media shy?
The brown envelope.
You don't have it.
We don't compromise. You know, women are very ethical beings. So this is why you see in most corruption cases, it's just one or two. But most of us, as Linda said, we don't bend, to corruption.
Yeah.
We don't, because we think about our positions as very motherly positions. So when an opportunity, arises for corruption and you're told, we can give you $10 million, you think about your family, you think about the country, you think about the people that actually see you and believe in your leadership, and you then weigh it and say, is it worth it at the end of the day?
No.
And it's not worth it. That is true.
I'll give you an example. We have tried countless number to get Dr. Thokozani for an interview. You can't find him. We have tried number without end to get Joyce Mjulu for an interview. You can't find them. They run away.
Okay.
And they get men to speak on behalf of them. Why? Because, for instance, Dr. Thokozani Kalipani Pugen is always available to speak on behalf of them.
It is because of the attack. I'll give you an example. ZFM ran a story on me on Temba without even getting my side of the story. You understand? And then the next thing, you want me to go to them at the media house to write anything good about me when they've started with bad things already. So those things actually make women stay away, because already you have tarnished them.
But I'll give you an example.
That tarnish will not go away.
Donald Trump was tarnished by the media, but he faced them head on. Why don't you do that? He sits there, look at the stories that have been written.
People are different. People are different how they handle things. You understand? People are different. So you also need to think about that before you run any stories. Do your background checks. Then you write the correct thing. Because most of these media houses now are just writing lies. They are just writing lies.
If I could just add on to what Honorable Mboti has just said. If on the front page of the Newsday, there's a story about myself having a sex tape leaked, and one of Blessed having a sex tape leaked, I would tell you mine will actually sell more than yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm ugly.
Because of the perception that
Yeah.
people then expect us to be perfect beings. We are not perfect beings. God has said we are all sinners. So there should be room for us to make errors but not be judged about it. But this is why media houses then see that blasting and lambasting and name calling of female politicians or business women is more profitable for them.
Yeah.
And it also then keeps them in good books with their fellow male compatriots, because you're going to meet after hours and have whiskey. So you can't be having whiskey with another gentleman after us writing a bad story about him. But you never see me or Memo or Linda in those kind of circles on your table, maybe sharing a glass of whiskey. We'll probably then do it on our own. So this is some of the things that you choose, what is more profitable to you, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And this is why you then see women don't want to be in politics. The young women, they're scared of it. because that violence is there, and then the role of media in making sure that women don't participate. We've got instances of Honorable Joanna Mamombe and Cecilia Chimbiri and Netsai Marora. We saw what happened to them. But instead of them being put in a light as victims, which they are, the media then started running with a narrative. Had it been verified? Has that narrative been verified? It hasn't. But then people continue running with that narrative. And you can imagine, Honorable Joanna's younger sister wanting to venture into politics. Will she have any motivating factors? No. When the media says one thing, the family, says another, the external family, of course, and then the churches and the society, then judge you for such an incident. So I think media houses have to be responsible. At the end of the day, we are all Zimbabweans trying to build the best Zimbabwe we can during our lifetimes. So they should also be held accountable for their actions. But as Honorable Memo said, that they should be criminalized. It's very difficult when then you see in Parliament, for example, Honorable Quota was being victimized and body shamed, and then being publicly violated by another legislator. So the people who are supposed to be making the laws are also then breaking them in the House. So it makes it very difficult for the person at a lower level to be able to act differently without using violence. And we need to move from politics of hate. This is one thing that I see that pushes our country. We need to move away from politics of hate and actually focus on politics of capacity.
Amazing.
I wanted to add something about the Thokozani Kupe and Maimujuru issue that you raised. We have to appreciate the patriarchal dominance I was talking about in their case, both of them. They have always occupied the deputy position. They've never had that exposure to deal with the media, to do things.
But where have you got yours?
I made myself.
So
I'm
why should
self-made.
they?
But look at their age and the number of years that they spent as deputies. For how many years was Maimujuru a deputy vice president? For how many years was Dr. Thokozani Kupe a deputy vice president? They had the presidents doing everything, and they only played the ceremonial roles in the parties. As the content is actually not there. Because every time, no, I'm being realistic about this. That is why, you remember when I came here earlier, you said women will make you sit and they don't attend the hearings. The problem, the interviews, the problem, I'm sorry to say this, but it's true. Most women don't want to read. They don't want to research. Ask them what is happening in the Pan-African Parliament right now. We can go and look for another MP. They don't even know what's happening there. Ask them what yes. Oh, yeah, well, they know what's happening in an Indian movie. So if women want to be taken seriously, they have to start reading. They have to have knowledge in their fingertips. They have to understand global politics. They have to understand multilateralism. They have to be women to tackle an issue. They can go and deal with it. But I will tell you, nearly 80% of the women we have in parliament do not have content, and that's the reality. That is why they are media shy and they are afraid of speaking with the media. Capacitate ourselves with knowledge. That is why men will always say, because women, be known what you stand for. Have a cause that you stand for. Be known good international relations. Foreign affairs. Right now, I'll ask her, the councillor is here. Do you even have a next councillor? You don't. Health committee or council, where are the nurses? Why are they not running for council? How many doctors or nurses do we have that run for parliamentary seats to go and push the health committee in parliament? It is important for people to know, for Zimbabweans to know that even if you have a profession, you've got the right to stand for parliament or council and push that change that you want. If you don't stand as a professional, because hakuna engineer yacho, hakuna vanhu expertise yacho kuti vagone kunopusha the change that we want.
So we were also supposed to be joined by Honorable Amavete Tatenda, but unfortunately she had a tooth problem and it was pulled off. So we're going to be playing a video from her on what she thinks about this topic, and we're also here because we want everybody to be represented, and we want everyone's voices. We are the platform where people talk to each other. We are a dialogue platform. We are Heart and Soul TV and radio. In this particular program, we're partnering with the Frederick Newman Foundation to bring you free talk. You talk freely on this
Without fear of favor.
The political environment is complicated and compromised against women. And when you look at it, I've also realized that it's also about just making sure that at least women do not occupy these positions. When you look at it, we are in a very patriarchal society, and this patriarchal society has also capacitated and necessitated even issues to do with violence. Violence can be physical, can also be emotional. We have had words being thrown at women, and we have also had women being labeled Hure, I should say. And when you look at all these words, these were words that were given to Honorable Mkupe at one point in time, because she was trying to defy all odds and make sure that at least she occupies the positions of men. And when I look at all these instances, these are meant to make sure that women do not or are prevented from occupying certain positions in society. And as women, I think we need to come out of this and make sure that at least we are there, we are seen there, and we do not have to make this be a hindrance of us occupying these positions. We have had even the asking of titles when it comes to getting involved in politics. And I'm saying to myself, being Miss or Mrs., what has that got to do with one's capacity of being a politician? Why would we request for marital status? Why should it be a barometer for one being said, this one is married, so this one is not married, so these people can actually be able to qualify in politics? In politics, we have never had any requirements, far from one being capable, one being wanting to occupy a certain position by showing and proving that you can actually be able to get there as a woman. So for me, I feel that this was actually a sexist barrier which is used to then be able to exclude women from occupying certain positions. I'm saying that we need to involve and engage every woman as they are, and we need to know that capacity comes with one's way of articulating issues, one's way of confidence, one's just zeal and willingness of getting into any position. We have also had physical violence. Recently, we have got the issue of Honorable Barbara Rosie at PAP. This is one also instance that shows that men can actually come even physical to women. Was there any need for her? She had proved a point. If you then realize even the chairperson was there, who was actually a male, she was saying, no, you're lying, and all these sorts of things. These are ways that come from men. Men actually physically bring violence even in politics for women, and this alone has also been a hindrance for women. There has also been a notion which says politics is dirty, yet it's not true. We need to demystify this, because if you look at it, politics is not even if you see other people also getting in there, it's not even dirty as it proves, but it's about people who want to create this environment so that at least it will prove and it will actually make women not get into it. Because if any woman, there is no woman who has got that, who is able-bodied for them to be getting into a physical fight. So because of this has been something which I feel that has been created specifically to exclude women from all these processes. And as women, we need to make sure that we play the smart politics. We get into politics, we are there, we show and we prove that we're able and we're capable. We need to be seen on those spaces. We need also to show that at least if ever we've got any position that has been given to us, where can we take it? And then we wait for another position that would have to be coming through. But we also need to make sure that it is, as women, we are visible, we are there, we show that we are able to do it. Look, the quota system, we need to look at it holistically and say what was needed, especially on the Constitutional Amendment number 2. On Constitutional Amendment number 2, there was only the provision of extending the women's quota. So it was not an issue of us aligning the Constitution to what we do each and every single day. The issue was on women's quota extension. So for me, when I look at it, I thought it was there to make sure that it empowers women. And for us to be able to be like Rwanda, which has got more than 60% of women being in parliament, we need to be having this provision. As much as we're going to be pushing forward for the 50-50, we can push forward for the 50-50 when we have got those 60 seats. This 60 seats then becomes an addition of women empowerment. So when I look at Women's Quota is empowering women, it is making women being visible, it is making women occupy certain positions. Right now we have got 5 ministers of state. If you look at it, most of them are actually from the proportional representative seats. So what it then does is that we are getting women getting involved, we are empowering women getting involved, they're getting the exposure. Women actually will be able to occupy certain positions that they would not have been able to. And again, we need to understand that the Women's Quota is an addition from the constituencies. We have got 210 constituencies that are there, which women can actually equally be able to participate in. And there we have got an additional 66. So for me, I feel that this provision, it shows that our government has got a thrust of involving young women, of involving every woman, so that at least they can then be able to get in. Even, of course, I feel that maybe we also need to be making a quota to make sure that at least we address issues to do with people living with disabilities. This is also very important and very pertinent, so that at least we get more young people, even young, those that are disabled, also getting and occupying positions in the Women's Quota. It's not about women being given things on a silver platter. Women actually go for an election for them to be elected on that seat. Women's Quota, you need to go through a primary election, that is from my party where I come from. So it's not like you're getting a silver platter. But what we've always wanted was a situation whereby we've got equal representation, we've got equality. So for us to be able to address this issue, you are then contesting with a fellow woman. And I think this is what has been the cry from most women, whereby they're saying we need to at least to be having a seats that are reserved for women. So there we are, we've got the PR, which is reserved for women. You are contesting with another fellow woman, so that at least you can see your capabilities. So you're on the same level ground, not looking at gender issues, but you're looking at you as a woman contesting another woman. So it's not about you being given on a silver platter, but it's about us, a provision, a pronouncement. We are saying that there is that okay, let me say that provision which is there, which actually satisfies the interests of the women, which is there to show that women are being included. It looks at engagement, it looks at inclusion of women. So for me, I feel that there is no other better place that we can be unless for us to have the Women's Quota, and then we have an additional 50-50 as we go forward. My recommendations is we need to have a conversation, an intergenerational conversation of young women and old women. It's not right for us as young women to think that our position is being occupied by older women. We need that consensus. We need to make sure that at least we involve each other. There is that conversation that needs to be done, especially within us as women, so that we unite together and then we can then be able to fight patriarchy. Because our root cause is patriarchy. The issue is not about the older women, it's not about that. So I think this is one thing that we need to do as women. The other issue is that we also need to make sure that at least within the political environment, we need to make sure we demystify the myth which is there, which says that politics is dirty. Politics has never been dirty, but what we need to do is that we need to make sure that at least when we are in politics, we prove to people that this is what we're capable of doing. I certainly do not agree with women who think that maybe they need to date someone or they need to be in love with someone so that at least they occupy a certain position. We need to prove as women, because the moment that we entertain men when we're in that environment, they will actually start believing that indeed that is the field where they can come and find love, or they can come and start manipulating women. So as women, we need to stand forth and say, no, we do not, politics is not about you falling in love with someone, but it's about you proving that you're capable, you proving that you're determined, you proving that you're focused, and then you can be able to occupy that position. That is my thinking. And I also think the third thing that we also need to do going forward is as young women, as women, we need to make sure that at least we speak with one voice. Speaking with one voice is very, very critical, is very, very important for us to be able to achieve. I also feel that there is need for a collaborative effort with us as women, for us to be having all the state actors that are involved, especially in making sure that young people are included and women are included. I would say that there is need for us to make sure that at least we engage ZEC. There is that need for that engagement for us going forward. And also even in terms of the legislation, we need to make sure that at least we can speak into the Constitution. The Constitution needs to be aligned with an act that will make sure that at least even the ZEC or any other bodies that deal with elections will then be able to make sure that at least they will include women who will get that 50-50. I appreciate right now that our president has got the thrust of making sure that young people, women are also involved. So for us, we need to have the legislation. So let us create the legislation that will enable young people, enable women to be involved in the whole process.
This was an amazing panel discussion, and I'm going to just allow you in no particular order to give us your powerful closing remarks. on the way forward? Take it up, whoever wants to start.
The way forward is for us women to stand together in solidarity with each other and to push for the laws that we want that will benefit women, capacitate women, and propel us into the positions that we want. If you're not on the dining table, you're definitely the menu. We should stop picking up the breadcrumbs and ensure that we fight for equality and occupy all the governance positions in this country. I thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to say to all the ladies out there, power, you have to grab it yourself. Work with other women. Create these platforms where you go and encourage each other, teach each other public speaking, gather that confidence so that when you come up to speak, people can actually believe in what you're saying. So I just want women to capacitate themselves and also read, as what Honorable Linda was saying, capacitate yourself, read, be conversant with all the issues that are happening globally. So that's my closing remarks. Thank you.
I just want to encourage the women in influential positions to take up mentorship of young women in their communities, in their sectors, because I think with mentorship it will open up the younger women and even the elderly women to actually see their own potential. So that would be my message to the ones that already occupy these seats. Let us take up fellow sisters and groom them and mentor them and walk with them towards their true realization of leadership.
Amazing conversation that we've had this evening, and I hope that we have taken the nuggets out of it. Those who are responsible for making policy, those who are leading political parties, those who are out there who actually vote. It is important for you to be able to put your voice through a vote and make a difference in the running of this nation. Now, we are the station of your choice. We are the platform for dialogue, and we believe that anything can be achieved if people talk together and dialogue instead of fighting. This has been the Free Talk, proudly brought to you in proud partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation, Heart and Soul TV and Radio. And I, as always, your host, Dara Blessed Mhlanga. Until next time, thank you very much for choosing us. This is Free Talk in partnership with Frederick Newman Foundation, our partners in free speech. Free speech is the center of development of any nation.